present this treasury, because even when it comes to this clear program that was a pronouncement on by the president, everyone else, there is a lack of funding and implementation from that level. We're saying treasury must urgently fund these programs as an intervention on the crisis that we're facing as a country of high unemployment of the youth. The youth can continue to be unemployed when there's a budget set aside for them to resolve their own problems. Now, we're saying the Treasury Department must urgently act. Failure to, those that are responsible for that department must step aside and allow progressive people to take the country forward. We can't sit back and watch the National Treasury being used by those who want to take the ANC out of power as a tool to take the ANC out of power. We know very well that some of them are progressive because some of their policies that they make there are clear that they will never implement any pro-poor programs. We've seen the collapse of state-owned entities. State-owned entities are mainly created for a clear developmental agenda and to change the life of our people, especially those that have been affected by the injustices of the past. We've seen the delay on the appointment of the CEO of ESCOM, the same ESCOM that made the president to cut this trip short because there was an energy crisis in South Africa. You still delay to appoint its CEO. We're saying that all departments must go, all entities must immediately be placed in the departments responsible as per the resolutions of the ANC. We're calling upon the president to urgently act on that because it's clear that where they are placed, no one is monitoring them, they're not performing. Now we're saying the president must, because we can't allow state-owned entities to be collapsed in the interest of privatization. We know the clear agenda is that they must collapse so that they say they don't perform, then they're later privatized, which is against the ANC resolutions, that is against privatization. Now we're saying that all of these state-owned entities must immediately go to the responsible department and be given to young people to thrive. Because we can say we're the future of this country, but we're unable to drive organs of the state that must change the lives of our people. It can't be that also state-owned entities become retirement areas. Anyone who's from retirement is fetched from home to come and take responsibility of them. We're saying from boards to the executive, they must be given to young people who have been trained, who are ready to take them over and move forward because it's their future. We know very well that young people of South Africa will not agree to the privatization of their own state entities that must supposed to change the lives of our people. It is clear that they are collapsing everything, and no one is taking responsibility for that. The ANC will click on the retrenchment of post office employees. The ANC will click expresses concerns over possible post office business rescue plan. A restructured post office must prioritize job creation and accessible communication services for the poor of the poorest. The ANC clique rejects the notion of job losses and emphasizes that the Department of Communication and Digital Technology must take decisive action to prevent such retrenchments. It is imperative that an alternative solution and strategy are exploited to safeguard the livelihood of post office employees. The ANC clique urges the department to prioritize the well-being of the workers and ensure that any restructuring plan aligns with the broader goal of job creation and service accessible to our vulnerable people of our society. There must not be any restructuring that affects employment of our people. We're saying the Minister of Communication must urgently stop anything that has to do with the retrenchment. Failure to will join together hands with all progressives to fight until there is no retrenchment. If it means we must call upon the removal of the minister, we'll do that. We know very well also that the relationship of SASSA and the Post Bank is collapsing because people want to further take the responsibility of the SASSA distribution of to beneficiaries to private hands out of the hands of Post Bank. We're saying we're clear that Post Bank is a future commercial bank of South Africans. And all state-owned entities must be able to support that program. Now, any program that has to do with the collapse of Post Bank, we are anti it, and we are ready as the Youth League to fight against any privatization of the Post Bank until the bitter end. On the parliamentary release process, we are re-emphasizing our stand that we will not accept anything below 50% for youth representation in parliament. We are not going to accept it. Anything below 50% for youth representation in all characters of power, we are not going to accept it. We are saying that young people must be in the legislature, must be in parliament. Later on, they must be given executive responsibilities to run their own country. Now, if there's anything, anywhere, anyone dreaming, sitting somewhere, looking at the list to parliament that has less than 50% of young people, must know that there will be at war with the ANC Youth League. And on the rent manipulation, it's a criminal offense to manipulate the rent. People have maximized profit at the expense of South Africans, mainly the middle class. The banks that were involved made profit out of stealing from South Africans. They not only steal their money, but they also affected the economy of the country, which later affected the job creation opportunities of this country and put a lot of people who are already in poverty in deeper poverty. We're saying that the banks that are involved, all government entities must detach from doing business with them. If it means that we must remove all our salaries from those banks, all government workers must never be paid from all of those banks. Because the government of South Africa can be in partnership with criminals. And we're saying the penalties paid is not enough. They must be arrested. It's a criminal offense to manipulate the rent. We're shocked that even today they're still not arrested, even those that have admitted that they were part of the manipulation of the rent. They're roaming around, behaving big. They're even going further to fund other political parties to remove the ANC out of power so that we won't raise the issue of them being arrested. We are aware of that. We are aware that they're recruiting veterans because they want to give credibility to their criminality. Because they know without veterans who have a clear track record of fighting for this country, no one will follow their Mickey Mouse organizations that they are creating with an intention to take the ANC out of power. Now we're saying that the government employees, all of them, they must withdraw any business that they do with all of these banks that are affected, including removing our salaries from them. We're saying that the African Bank and the Post Bank must be equipped enough to take responsibility. Because the government of the people that they get from state-owned entities, or the middle-class banking with them from wherever they send their labor. Now we're saying that we're calling upon South Africans who are conscious enough that they must not participate in any partnership or business with those banks who have been seen to be manipulating the rent. And we're saying criminal charges must be open against those ones. Now, and we're saying that it's an urgent matter. We will have a discussion with the president, because we always engage with the president that all those ministers that have been underperforming, who have not been spending their budgets, must be put aside, and those who have got energy to run must run. Those that have been participating in the manipulation of the rent must take full responsibility, and criminal charges must be placed upon them. Thank you.